Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Kershaw Kapsule, which is a manual OTF. Slide the button forward and the blade deploys. Depress the button and slide it backwards and it retracts. This is available right now. You can find it right down in the description. I'll make sure that it is linked. This knife was sent to me by River's Edge Cutlery. Thank you so much for sending this in for review. You guys can find links for River's Edge Cutlery right down below. I definitely recommend checking out their site if you're not familiar with them. Thanks so much to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. There's a link for Patreon right down below, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this guy. So this is not a big knife, obviously. Overall length of the capsule coming in at about 4.75 inches. If you want to count the lanyard loop on the back as overall length, then it's about 5 inches. Blade length is well under 2 inches. The cutting edge is about 1.75. So given that this is not sharp on both sides, it is not actually an automatic knife, and it is well under even the 2-inch mark, it makes this knife very legal in a lot of places. Not everywhere because it still locks, but if you live in an area with some crazy restrictions, right? If you're in the United States and you live in a state with a lot of crazy restrictions, this knife should be legal there. But as per usual, I'm not a source of legal advice there, so make sure you check your local laws and know for sure before you pick something like this up. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and its little brother, the Ontario Rat Model 2. You can see there, definitely smaller than both. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and Spyderco Para 3? Same thing, obviously tiny knife. One more, even though I think it's kind of pointless driving the same point home, right? The Benchmade Group Cylinder, in this case the Ritter Hogue, and the Benchmade Bug Out, right? Tiny knife. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. Excuse me if you hear thunder and lightning. We're in a thunderstorm right now, so if the power goes out, obviously this video will be edited. Blade thickness up against the Para 3. You can see here it's just pretty close to about the same. Carry profile length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. Pretty small object. Nowhere near as long or as tall, no matter how you look at it, right? Just not really going to be that big of a deal. What are we looking at for materials? We're looking at a combination of injection mold plastic, steel, and aluminum. I believe like the firing button, I say the firing button, the actuation switch is aluminum. And then the steel is unfortunately 8CR13 MOV. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys right now, this is a $30 knife. 30 bucks, it's right on the line of, because you see 8CR13 MOV and you're like, that should be under 20, right? But we'll talk about a few justifications here and then some issues, things like that. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check on this guy. Get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive, very recommendable. You can find them right down in the part of my description that mentions my tools. T6 across the board. Yeah, it shouldn't be that difficult to take apart. I would imagine that you're going to have to depress and then sort of push things down. But if you want to take it apart, right, if you get some gunk in there, because truthfully, that might be an issue. If this thing is sitting in your pocket, in your toolbox, in your, the little thing, the drawer that slides in and out in your vehicle or your truck or whatever. And I mean, at some point, it's probably going to get some debris in there. Given how this operates, right, that it's not operating off of a button and you're manually pushing it, I'm going to guess that it can probably handle quite a bit more debris in there. But, if enough debris builds up in the back here where the blade can't lock closed or lock open, then yeah, you're going to have to take it apart and clean it out. But it doesn't look horribly complicated, so it shouldn't really be that big of a deal. Let's go ahead and weigh it. I'm going to guess this thing weighs something like 2 ounces maximum. Let's go ahead and reset this because it doesn't know what's going on here today. Okay. Yeah, there you go. 2.05 ounces. That's on this channel, it's ultra lightweight, anything under 3 ounces, so that's fine. It shouldn't be that difficult to carry. It should be pretty easy, though I would imagine this is the type of thing that you just leave in like a junk drawer, truthfully. All right, so we have this sort of small dagger-looking profile, and it looks kind of neat. And, you know, your first instinct is going to be to mess with this button. You have to, it's locked right now, right? So just pushing on the top of it, it's not going to move it. But you have to actually push it down to get it to go, and then you move it forward. And then once it gets to the, you know, the locked out position, or it gets to the final point there, it'll lock it out. How strong is the lock? I don't know, but I mean, exactly how much abuse are you going to put this type of knife through? This is the type of knife that you use for a quick, simple cut. You're not going to be doing continuous cutting with this thing. You're not going to be doing heavy pressure cuts or anything like that. You're going to be opening packages. You're going to be basically cutting zip ties, or just moment of convenience, right? That's why I call this a junk drawer knife, or a backup knife. This is, I mean, it's kind of a larger, it's larger than something like a Victorinox. My go-to backup knife is a Victorinox Cadet because it's got multiple tools on it and it's thinner and smaller, right? But this is fine for a backup knife, right? Something that you use where you don't need like your larger, right, whatever your dedicated knife is. Or if you have somebody who's not a knife person and they're like, hey, can I borrow your pocket knife real quick? This is a lot less expensive. Real simple. Most people, I think, can probably figure this out. Probably not going to freak anybody out, right? Even though there's always people who, I don't care what anybody thinks. Okay, cool. But yeah, backup knife. You can keep this in your back pocket and use it for whatever in circumstances that might call for something like this over a full-size knife, right? Ergonomically, there's not really much to speak. I mean, it has two guards, right? I think the main way that you're going to hold it is something like this or something like this. The problem here, that the thing that bothers me is that the way that I want to hold it is like this. This is how I'd hold it if I was opening up a package. The problem is that gripping it depresses the button, which locks it. That's the same thing that, that's the same thing that unlocks it, right? So that's how I want to hold it. You hold it like this, it'll work. You hold it like this. I want to hold it like this because I'm imagining myself, you know, cutting into a package or something like that, moving this way or this way. Holding it like this, your thumb's going to depress it. But obviously, I'm kind of like creating almost an unnecessary complaint because you can just hold it a different way and you should be okay. But it bothered me a little bit. If you're wondering about blade play in the open position, there's a little teeny tiny bit of wiggle, but truthfully, there's not much more wiggle than I would expect from like a Microtech OTF, right? So it does not have thunder there. It does not have completely and totally solid lockout, but I don't expect that from incredibly expensive OTF, so I'm not really going to critique it here. The knife has a lot of these sort of, you know, robotic lines all over the place, which is something that Kershaw, we definitely see from Kershaw. We see that type of stuff on not every single Kershaw, but we see it. It's unnecessary, but some people like that. You know, for a lot of people, that's the draw to stuff like this, is that it looks kind of, I don't know, futuristic and mechanical, right? So, okay. I don't really, you know, it's not really something I can complain about. The blade is kind of a disappointment. I'll tell you why. So the tumbling looks all right. I'm not sure why there's jimping up here. I can't imagine a circumstance where this is the comfortable way to hold this, but okay. We can see it's got 1190 Kai, 8CR13 MOV, and then it says Onso design. Yeah, Onso. And then it says China down here. This knife is manufactured in China. Do with that information what you will. Most of Kershaw's stuff that's very inexpensive, that's going to be the case. So this is a bayonet grind with a false edge over here. This is not sharp. And then this area right here is, I guess we're going to call that sharp. Not really. Barely. Enough to where you can push it into material and it's going to divide that material. The grind is kind of goofy, right? We kind of have some areas that are imperfect, but the blade is, it's quite a ways from sharp. The other thing that's really disappointing is that there's no actual tip. The tip is rounded. I'm not sure why they would do that. I mean, on a knife blade like this especially, it's important to have a tip. I mean, sure, I can push it through, right? But, I mean, it shouldn't require that much force. The blade will cut, but you can see on this card, it's kind of tearing the material. You can see how the lips of that are folded this way. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's only $30, but this needs to be sharp, and there needs to be a tip. I've got sheep's foot blades that are, where the nose is rounded, right? And the tip is still substantially sharper than this. That just doesn't make any sense to me. I can't believe that. I don't know if this one, this is a dud or what, but that's really disappointing. I don't understand why they would allow this to be made like that, right? So the other thing is, you can see here it's been rubbing a little bit. I don't know that I really want to complain about that. I mean, it's probably gonna rub a little bit. I've seen much more expensive OTFs rub. Moving on here, a couple of some traction points, I guess, if you're gonna hold it like this, right? I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of whys here, I mean, in some sense, I mean, honestly, it's pretty easy for, I think, most people to look at this and go, this is a simple object that doesn't require that much critique, right? So I might be taking a lot of things totally overboard here. It's not meant to be anything incredibly technical or special, right? It's doing what it's meant to be doing. But I can't ignore little things, right? Speaking of what it's meant to be doing, little things like having a tip and having an edge that's actually sharp. Sure, it can cut, but it's cumbersome, right? Even by, like when we're comparing other $30 to $50 knives from Kershaw's Chinese line, a lot of those knives have, edges that are plenty well done, substantially sharper. Right now, they are working with a geometry. And by the way, we didn't actually measure this blade stock thickness, but I'm going to guess it's something like 90 thousandths. The grind starts the maximum point of thickness is right down the middle, right? Which, by the way, that line does not go right down to the tip, not perfectly. But again, it's a $30 knife, right? It's real thick right here. Just unbelievably thick considering how, what they're starting with for, like the blade stock thickness. It's just, I don't know. It's unreal. It sounds like I'm being really harsh on this thing, but just, being honest here. Lanyard hole, if you want to put a lanyard on it. The pocket clip's okay. I mean, honestly, the pocket clip is a lot more impressive than I thought it would be. It's really hard for me to complain about a hot spot on something like this because am I ever going to hold it like this? Really? No, I'm never going to hold it like that. So honestly, I don't care. I will say that the pocket clip does go right along with the design and it's symmetrical. And it does work. In and out of the pocket, it's fine, even though the screws are not recessed. You can also switch it over to the other side. And even though the button is dedicated to one side, well, actually, that's silly. That doesn't make any sense. If you switch the pocket clip over to the other side, then you would be dealing with the pocket clip sitting on top of the button. The truth is that the way that this is set up can simply be flipped to, it already is ambidextrous the way that it is. If you want to carry it in your right-hand side pocket, it's going to be like this. You want to carry it in your left-hand side pocket, it's going to be like this. It's already ready to go. I miss that sometimes. Little brain farts, right? This side is basically just more mechanical stuff, just for aesthetic. I mean, yeah, a little bit of grip there, but not really anything of note. So this is a $30 knife that is best suited as a junk drawer knife, as a backup knife, something you throw in your toolbox or your truck. It doesn't have that much more cutting edge than a utility knife, right? I mean, if we're talking about, I have one over here. Something like this. We're looking at, I don't know, what is that? Another 3/4 of an inch. It's not often that I actually say something like, if you're gonna go for something like this, then just go with a utility box cutter. But truthfully, it's not, knives like this actually make stuff like this look like a way better value, right? It's really hard for me to make justifications for something like this, right? It's neat, and it, honestly, the main reason to pick this up is if you're watching me do this and you're going, that looks kind of fun. I kind of want to fidget with that. Because, yeah, for a little bit, that's what I wanted to do initially. I think I started to say that earlier and I didn't finish it. You just want to kind of do this for a little bit. And then that gets tiring, and then it just becomes this thing that, it'll cut if you need it to, right? It's kind of a last resort. Like if you don't have anything else around that's got a blade on it, right? Something that would have made this substantially more interesting, number one, is if it was like way, way sharper, if the edge was done a lot better, and if it had a tip, right? Now I understand, I don't know how much better they could make it, but if just a little bit more attention was paid to the edge, and if it had a tip. And then beyond that, the ATR 13 MOV steel, again, I know that we're talking about a $30 knife, but hey, QSP is manufacturing knives out of China, and they've managed to make an excellent model out of D2 and micarta, right? Fit and finish is just amazing on that thing, considering it's only $30. I would have liked to have seen this thing in at least D2 steel. It's not necessarily something that everybody needs, but I understand its place, right? This is a knife that is very, very legal in areas, especially here in the United States, that are very, fearful of dagger blades and OTFs and knives that are over a certain length, right? So, yeah, I can understand its place. Not everybody needs this, and truthfully, even at $30, right? It's not hurting anybody at $30, but I can't openly recommend that you rush out and buy this. If you want to experience the little button thing and it's worth $30 to you, then knock yourself out. But truthfully, even at $30, I mean, there are better things out there for this size, right? And it's like I said, if you're going for something that's this size, get a Victorinox, definitely. If you're after, better materials and fit and finish, you can get, like I said, better fit and finish and materials, even for the exact same price point. So, yeah, this was something I wanted to talk about and take a look at, but it's just very, very underwhelming. And it kind of, it's hard for me to say that, again, because it's so inexpensive. There's going to be people saying, you're coming at it way too hard. It's just $30, right? But even at $30, it's really, really unimpressive to me. And those are my thoughts. So, I don't know. Like I said, it'll be linked down below if you want to check it out anyway. I do appreciate River's Edge Cutlery allowing me to take a look at it. Thank you very much. Be sure to check out River's Edge Cutlery because they do have some awesome stuff there. And they do amazing exclusives, as many of you know. Anyways, that's going to be pretty much it today. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.